It's Friday, September 27th, and I'm your host, Paula Hersey. On today's show, we have another episode of Movers and Shuckers with a focus on economic growth for young professionals. Bug Buzz talks butterflies and bees, and we take a look at a great event for high school students exploring the trades. Now for a look at municipal and legislative notes. Congratulations to Channel 18, that's us, for winning multiple awards at the Alliance for Community Media Northeast Video Festival. Our creative and dedicated team will pick up our awards at the ACMNE conference at the end of October. Stay tuned next week for the replays of first place winner, the Diamondback Terrapin Head Start program, second place winner, Channel 18 Media That Matters, and third place winners, Water Quality Testing and Bismore Park, A Family Legacy. What does the oyster industry have to do with retaining our young professionals here on Cape Cod? This episode answers the age-old question, can you return home and find a job you love?
I grew up here. I went to DY High School, went to Westfield State to study biology and chemistry.
I grew up on Cape Cod and went to Barnstable High School. Was involved with some really amazing science programs out at Sandy Neck and in other places. And I really had a love of, the outdoors.
Life kind of brought me back to the Cape. It's one of those things, I even said in college, I'm not going back to the Cape. And then they say, once you get that sand in your shoes, you can't get it out.
I'm a Cape Cod local, and I've been into the environment ever since I was young. I went to school for biology. This is a growing field in the environmental field.
I grew up in the White Mountains of New Hampshire. I went to school at New England College for biology with a focus in marine biology. I had actually met somebody special, and I moved down to the Cape about 7 years ago.
It's been a great job. One of the great parts of it is it's very hands-on. You learn every aspect of the business. Every person here, whether you sit at a desk for a few hours a day or you're out at the machine, you're involved with the oysters from when they're brought in as microscopic seed to when they ship out the door as market oysters.
Kind of explored a lot of options after college, a lot of fields, and this one kind of just spoke the most to me. It's, you get to work with your hands out on the water. You can't beat working out on the water in the summer on Cape Cod. Nitrogen is such a big problem on Cape Cod. It's really one of our biggest local problems with our local waterways, and this is a great way to both provide people food and help the environment through nitrogen mitigation.
My biggest piece of advice for a young professional in any of the science fields is, to do something that you're passionate about. For me, straight out of college, I worked in a laboratory that was kept at 80 degrees with no windows. The work was extremely important. It just wasn't for me. I then, I got my feet wet, literally speaking, into the aquaculture industry, and I learned about it.
I love Cape Cod. I love the environment of Cape Cod. Being right on the water is such a blessing that we have, and I really want to be a part of maintaining the environment around here.
Just from what I've seen, even friends not moving back here, and some of it being that there's more opportunity and more offerings in other places. So even though they may want to come back or there might be a desire, unfortunately, some industries, it's hard to come back down here and really, make a way. That's one of the beautiful things about aquaculture and kind of some of the budding industry off of that. A lot of towns are opening up beds because of that nitrogen mitigation. It's not only cleaning up the environment, but also it's drawing some young professionals back to be able to work, where they grew up and be doing something good for the environment and make a little money at the same time.
Insects, love them or hate them? Beneficial and beautiful or pesky pests? Local entomologists Larry Dapsis and Gabby Sokolowski square off on this debate in their inaugural Bug Buzz segment, The Wasp or the Monarch Butterfly? What bugs bug you?
Hi, my name is Gabrielle Sokolsky and I'm the entomologist with the Cape Cod Mosquito Control Project. And when Larry first approached me about collaborating on this Bug of a Month show, my one stipulation was no cuddly bugs for me to talk about. I find the other types of insects, not the pretty ones, more interesting. So if you look at this picture, you've got some cuddly, fuzzy, adorable bees and bumblebees. And there was a study recently published by the University College of London that actually said when people were shown pictures of bees and bumblebees, they had warm, fuzzy feelings. And I think part of that warm, fuzzy feeling is we've done a good job as entomologists and ecologists getting the word out. Honeybees and pollinators are important, and the decline of those populations is going to impact not just the environment, but that's going to impact also human society as we know it. So that message has gotten out. So when people see these bees, honeybees, bumblebees, they get those warm, fuzzy feelings. And in fact, here in the United States, when I looked it up, we found that out of the 45 states that have official insects for their states, 17 states have chosen the honeybee as their official insect. Only one state, New Mexico, has a wasp as their official insect. So today I'm going to talk about wasps. And in particular, I'm going to talk about yellow jackets. Looks kind of tough, right? Those yellow jackets, they are kind of tough. But maybe like the main character in that book, Wicked, I love the musical, maybe they're just misunderstood. I think most people know what a yellow jacket is when they look at it. They are about a ½ an inch long insect. They have those yellow-black alternating bands on their abdomen. And they're not very hairy. Unfortunately, that's what makes them not great pollinators. They aren't pollinators at all. And this time of year, as we go into fall, this is when we really find people having these aggressive encounters with the yellow jackets. So what's going on in the yellow jacket's life? Let me tell you about it. So this is a picture of a wasp nest. When you see these here on Cape Cod, these are actually bald-faced hornets. But they make their nests, hives, in the same way that the yellow jackets do. They're chewing on wood fibers and creating this papery substance, and they put that down in layers to create their nests. In the spring, these yellow jackets come out, the fertilized queens come out of their protective locations. Through the winter, they spend their time in the leaf litter, in logs, somewhere a little more protected. In the spring, May, June here on Cape Cod, they'll come out and start to build their hives. Yellow jackets here build their hives in the ground or in structures like walls, under the shingles in your roof, things like that. And throughout the summer, their populations increase over time. Yellow jackets here yellow jackets in general, feed on things like sugary substances for energy. And that's sometimes where we encounter them. The Coca-Cola that you're drinking, that can that's sitting out there, is attracting them just the way a flower would. Something sugary, something tasty for them. They also hunt. They hunt insects to feed their young. So they'll go out and find insects. Now, most insects, as we know, are not pests. 99% of insects aren't. 1% are. And so yellow jackets are going out there and picking up some of those pests from your garden to take them back to feed their young. And again, this is another way that we encounter yellow jackets. Your hamburger is meat, and they're looking for meat and protein to feed their young, so you're going to come into contact with them. As we get through towards the end of the season, their hives change to 30% fertilized, 30% queens. Those queens are then fertilized, and they're getting ready to overwinter. This time of year when those queens are getting ready to overwinter and those hives are at high production, at this time of year you may have hives of 1,000 wasps in a hive here. That's the time when they're most aggressive because they're out there looking for food sources and the insect populations are low and all those flowering plants are starting to go away. We also run into them when we're landscaping because we don't expect them and then there they are in the ground. We're lucky here in the Northeast that our wasp populations are being controlled by the weather because if we didn't have the winter weather to keep them down, you could have something like in this picture, an entire car filled with a wasp colony. It just keeps growing. So in places like Hawaii, where this picture was from, and even in the South here, in the continental United States, you can have populations of thousands and thousands of wasps in one colony. It's frightening. So wasps are part of our environment, just like our cute honeybees. So I want people to not be afraid of them. The only time you really need to control wasps is if you're coming into contact with them or if they're impacting you in some way. And if you're going to control wasps, my suggestion, my first step would be to contact Larry at the Cooperative Extension Service for information on control.
Well, as fascinating as yellow jackets are, and I certainly agree with you on many of those interesting points that you made, I am going to take the warm and fuzzy route in this segment. I'm going to talk about something that is so aesthetically stunning that it will blow people's minds in terms of how it makes its living. So here's a picture of an adult monarch butterfly. Basically, this could have been a national symbol, but we don't have a national insect. But it is endeared by a number of states as their official state insect. And there are 8 states, including West Virginia, who also has the honeybee. So they can't make up their minds in West Virginia. So monarchs are very interesting creatures. And one of the things is you look at this and it just stands out. It does not want to be unnoticed. And so things like predators, like birds, can see those things from a mile away. And so an untrained bird will come up and grab a monarch butterfly and eat it. But what the bird doesn't realize is that as these monarch butterfly larvae are feeding on milkweed, milkweed contains cardiac glycosides. So that bird, after ingesting a monarch butterfly, about 10 minutes later, it's going to throw up violently. And that bird's going to wonder, like, what the heck did I just eat? And it'll remember that orange and black beautiful butterfly. And so it's a note to self, never eat a black and white butterfly ever again. So some of the monarchs take one for the team, basically, to train the bird population to have the predators evade them. Now, what's also interesting about this is, here's a viceroy butterfly, all right? Looks almost, at first glance, it's identical to a monarch butterfly. But the viceroy butterfly is actually quite palatable. So over the course of evolution, we see examples of mimicry, things that look like things that are dangerous or unpalatable. So the viceroy has played this card, and if you look at them together very quickly, except for those black lines on the hind wings of the viceroy butterfly, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference, and neither can a bird. So let's look at this fall migration map. Now, monarchs will actually migrate south, and they do this based on changes in the milkweed plant. So later in the summer into the fall, as milkweed plants are getting ready to go dormant, they actually change the signature of the chemicals in the foliage. And so that sends a signal to the monarch butterfly, stop laying eggs on this plant because it's time to go south. And the butterflies on the west coast, they will migrate into southern, the Baja area. But the predominant population of the Midwest and East Coast, most of them go to Mexico. A few of them go to southern Florida. But by and large, the majority of them go to a very isolated place in Mexico. And it's not like they're going on vacation. It's like, hey, hon, didn't we have fun in the mountains of Mexico last year? Let's go again. They're going to a place they've never been before. And so how do they accomplish this feat? Because this journey for some of these butterflies coming from Canada, that might be 3,000 miles. So when the butterflies decide to migrate, they'll ride air thermals so they're not, having to use their own energy all of the way. But how do they know that they're going south? Well, when the sun rises, it rises in the east, and the butterflies know that. So the butterfly knows as long as I keep the sun to my left, I'm going south. And then over the course of the day, as that sun gets to high noon and it starts going into the west, the butterfly knows as long as I keep that sun on my right side, I'm going south. And so there's also evidence that these butterflies can navigate the magnetic field lines of the Earth that go between the North and South poles. So this thing basically has a compass. So it finds its way to Mexico, but some people have been planting milkweed because they hear that there are problems with the populations. So people are doing what they think is the right thing to do. Let's plant milkweed. Well, not all milkweed is created equally. So here's a picture of the common milkweed that we associate, with the monarch butterflies, but there's also tropical and subtropical species of milkweed as shown here. These tropical varieties, they do not go dormant. So when the butterflies encounter them, it's like, okay, let's just start laying eggs again. And as long as that plant is growing, the butterfly is going to lay eggs, and then comes a frost and you lose your monarch butterflies. So if you're going to plant milkweed, and I think it's a good idea, at least plant the right species. So let's look at where the site is that they wind up. This is a forested area in Mexico in the mountains, and those trees are covered with butterflies. And you see the limbs almost bending down to the ground just under the sheer weight of the butterflies. And so these butterflies wind up in a fairly small area. And if we look at this map of total acres occupied by the butterflies, we see an alarming trend here. We see the total acres of butterfly inhabited trees has been ratcheting down to a point where in a few years it's under an acre in size, down from upwards of 20 acres many years ago. So this butterfly actually is on the verge of extinction unless we really take some action on ourselves. So if we look at this spring migration map, the butterflies leave Mexico, but they don't just jaunt up here in one shot. By the time we see the butterflies during the summer, they're already the third generation of children and adult monarchs after leaving Mexico. And so here's the big problem, is that more and more crops in the southern states where they would first alight are planting Roundup-ready crops. And so what basically has happened is they're incorporating a resistance to this broad-spectrum herbicide, Roundup. Roundup basically will kill anything green that it touches. So we have, all the major crops now in this Roundup Ready. So the cotton, the soybean, the corn, the alfalfa. And so this allows the farmers to spray over the tops of these crops and basically obliterate any weeds that are in the area, including milkweed. So we basically have taken away a significant habitat to allow these butterflies to reproduce and then move further north. So there's a number of groups that are now partnering together and trying to work with growers to have land set-asides and basically create more habitat for wildflowers, including our milkweed, and basically create corridors that allows this thing to continue to go north and south, where it has been doing this for, tens of thousands of years. And so they need our help, unlike the yellow jackets. I'm Larry. We hope that you enjoyed this segment of Bug Buzz, and Gabby and I look forward to seeing you next month.
We do.
The construction trades on Cape Cod are looking for workforce to grow their building businesses. Our 2019 Channel 18 intern, Seamus Shropshire, visited the Construction Day event last year to learn more about the industry and opportunity.
I look back to when I was their age, I had no clue what I wanted to do. I wish I had things like this.
Seems to be a lot more focus with kids going into the trades now than it seems like there ever was.
Whatever you decide to do, just go into it with a positive attitude.
All this in there? All right, sweet. I didn't want to be standing in the way or nothing. What we're doing is we're performing a service, and we're making everyone's life better.
So what we're doing is we created a rough opening for a window install, and basically giving the kids an opportunity to take an Anderson window and install it into this rough opening. You know, having this venue, having it come out, have some fun, taking football, you get 3 tosses through a window. I don't even know if I could do that, you know?
I am a freshman. I will be graduating in the year 2022. I want to work to be an architect when I'm older. This event gives great opportunities for people that want to do things in that field.
Sean Michael, Upper Cape Tech. I actually became more interested in solar panels than I thought I would. It was really interesting.
We really try to engage young folks. We have some internship programs. Again, we're really heavily invested in training because we understand there's a lot of kids coming into the industry that have not been in it before.
I feel like it's benefited me because I was a landscaper before and I was working part-time, and now I'm working year-round and making more money, and I enjoy what I'm doing. Going through, I've been able to be Mr. Handyman around the house for kind of anybody, yeah.
Up next, things to do, places to go, and people to meet. The 9th annual David Lewis 5K to benefit Gosnold and Wellstrong will be held on Saturday at 9 a.m. at the Barnstable County Court Complex. The 3.1-mile run walk through Barnstable Village supports and celebrates recovery from substance abuse disorder. This year's race is focusing on the importance of community building in recovery. The event will include a short children's fun run, music, a raffle, face painting, awards, and recovery resource tables. For more information, go to davidlewis5k.com. Comments, suggestions, accolades, connect with us on Facebook, email us, or send us an old-fashioned note by carrier pigeon. Channel 18 works. For you, I'm Paula Hersey, and thank you for watching Barnstable Today.